The environmental catastrophe predicted for the Gulf of Mexico has crept closer to reality. Oil has reached the coast of Louisiana. Rescue teams have begun treating wildlife affected by the oil, which is still gushing from the stricken well. North America correspondent Craig McMurtry reports from the Gulf Coast in Louisiana.
In the Gulfport fishing harbour of Pass Christian, it's the end of the oyster season, just in time. These coastal communities were hit hard by Hurricane Katrina, but Darlene Kimball, whose family's been fishing here for 80 years, says an oil spill could wreck oyster and shrimp fisheries for years.
Well, this is like Katrina all over again, except maybe worse.
With the prevailing southeasterly pushing the slick toward shore, clean-up efforts are growing more frantic. Booms and buoys have been floated on the fringes of delicate wetlands and wildlife reserves. But in the persistently choppy conditions, fishermen aren't counting on the barriers holding.
With the winds blowing and rough seas, I don't imagine they're doing too much to get it cleaned up.
It isn't normally this quiet here on the last day of the oyster season, but today most of these boats didn't go out at all. Instead, their captains went to sign up for the clean-up effort and to find out if they'd be paid for helping. Lawyers have also been by, asking if anyone here wants to join a class action lawsuit against BP. There have been reports of an oil sheen reaching outer marshlands. Wildlife rescue teams received their first patient, a gannet soaked in oil. They're expecting many more.
And our vet is making sure there's nothing else wrong with him except for being contaminated with oil.
The Obama administration's hardening its language against British Petroleum.
We continue to urge BP to leverage additional assets to help lead the response in this effort.
We've so far mounted the largest response effort ever done in the world. We've utilized every technology available.
But along the Gulf Coast, people are also calling for more action from the president. Today, Barack Obama suspended the issuing of new offshore leases only a month after lifting a ban on new drilling along much of the US East Coast.
The local economies and livelihoods of the people of the Gulf Coast, as well as the ecology of the region, are at stake.
After Katrina took everything he had in New Orleans, 69-year-old Fred Evans started all over again on the Gulf Coast. He says he'll be ruined if the oil comes.
Ordeal when you lose everything, and hard to ever get started back again, you know.
There's nothing he can do but wait. Craig McMurtry, ABC News, Gulf Coast, Louisiana.
There's a growing realisation now for coastal communities on the Gulf Coast that the situation is going to get much worse before it gets better. Craig McMurtry filed this update just a short time ago.
It's hoped that the wind might turn around tomorrow, but at this stage the forecast is still for high winds pushing the oil toward the shore and heavy seas, so heavy that some boat captains say they won't be able to go out tomorrow. Here on the Mississippi Delta, south of New Orleans, oil traces have been found on some of the outer marshlands, and there are reports of more birds being found covered in oil. All along the Gulf Coast, communities are skittish. They're volunteering in large numbers to help with the cleanup, but with the wellhead on the seafloor still pumping out more oil, there is a growing sense of helplessness.